Breaking news at 10. A Shelby County club closed down. Deputies say it was really a front for drug dealing and using. The DA says it's a public nuisance. A judge ordered it closed.
The place is called Embibrios on Navy Road, just outside of Millington. Kelly Hessedal is there live with all the details. Kelly.
Sports bar is shut down tonight. Shelby County authorities basically calling this place an open drug market where folks could come here and shop for drugs like Xanax, Loratab, marijuana. Now, in this particular case, they say the owner wasn't looking the other way. They say he was actively involved in selling drugs as well as using them. Now, that owner, Thorne Peters, had a lot to say as deputies hauled him away in handcuffs. Take a listen. They say you were selling.
I've never used drugs in my life, so I will take a right now. I want to have a polygraph. I want to have right now. $1 million blunt hunt, the violent crime capital of America, people. This is what you get for your tax dollars. Not a blunt, not a joint, not a gram, not a pill. Just $1 million worth of cops and nothing to show for it. That's why we're in the violent crime capital, kids. America's dumbest police force at work.
Now, Peters and two of his employees now face felony drug charges. They were arrested and hauled away down to 201 Poplar. Authorities began investigating Embibrios back in November. Undercover officers say they made several drug buys since then. They found marijuana stashed in several places.
It was very open. There were observed uses of drugs within the establishment, right among the tables. Rather flagrant and rather blatant.
The DA's office tonight declaring this spot a public nuisance and issuing a warning to all club owners.
You should assume you're being watched. And if you're looking the other way and allowing illegal activity to occur on a regular basis, or if, as in this case, you're actively involved in that illegal activity, you can expect there's going to be a price to pay.
And this place will stay shut down at least until a court hearing on July 23rd. That is where Thorne Peters, the owner, will have a chance to answer to some of these allegations. Meanwhile, sheriff's deputies say there are other warrants out there, so we can certainly expect more arrests to be coming. Reporting live near Millington tonight, Kelly Hessedal, WREG News Channel 3.
The Millington man accused of using his bar to sell drugs was arraigned on charges of drug dealing this morning. Thorne Peters, who calls himself the Hollywood Kingpin and claims to be a prophet, but those living around his bar say he was nothing but trouble.
Steve Peters is being held on $200,000 bond while he tries to get an attorney. Locals near the Millington bar in Breezio say that not only Thorne was a big drug dealer, but a strange guy who wrote books about Elvis and women and called himself the Kingpin. Thorne Peters didn't go quietly after the sheriff's department raided his Millington bar in Embibrios, arresting him for using and selling drugs inside. The sheriff's department says undercover officers bought drugs there on several occasions since last fall. And though Peters claimed his innocence,
I've never used drugs in my life, sir. I will take a test of the effect right now. I want to have a polygraph. I want to have test right now.
On his web blog, he says he'll organize the first ever National Day of Consent for marijuana smokers on April 20th of 2010 and will report to 201 Poplar with a blazing blunt in his mouth. Peters was scheduled to return to court on August 4th so he can get an attorney. He's facing felony drug charges along with two others that were arrested with him. His bar in Breezios remains closed by the DA's office after filing a public nuisance action. In the studio.
Thorne?
Yes, I am.
Hey, it's Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. How you doing, sweetheart?
Good.
Hey.
Did you get my thing I left with Sherry last night?
What did you leave with Sherry last night?
My note.
Oh, I surely did.
19 months after he was charged with using his Millington nightclub to sell drugs. Part of the case against self-proclaimed kingpin Thorne Peters was dismissed this week.
Now Peters is calling out those who put him behind bars for nearly 2 years for what he says was no reason. Action News 5's Jason Miles has the interview you'll see only on 5.
Prophet, author, publisher, composer, troubadour. Former club owner Thorne Peters cites many interests on his website, including his affinity for marijuana.
I am a pot smoker. I love smoking pot with smoking hot women.
I spoke with Peters hours before his release from 201 Poplar.
I'm one of 25 million pot-smoking Americans.
And 19 months after we first met.
Here we are once again, $1 million blunt hunt.
When then Sheriff Mark Luttrell and former DA Bill Gibbons closed Peters' Millington nightclub.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Wow.
I appreciate you.
After, they said, a lengthy investigation revealed rampant drug use and drug sales.
They closed my club because they said I was running a front for drug trafficking. That's something very different than being a pot smoker.
Just this week, prosecutors dropped felony drug charges against Peters because they did not believe there was enough evidence to proceed, something Peters believes they knew all along.
There's been enough money spent on my case, including the 9-month-long sting operation and this 19-month wrongful incarceration and malicious prosecution, to have built a wing at a school, to have built a homeless shelter.
Peters is still facing misdemeanor charges for marijuana possession.
They are going to impanel a jury at a great fortune to you, the taxpayers, to try to cover their political bacon.
Through his spokesman, current County Mayor Mark Luttrell said, quote, "This is still a pending case and it would not be appropriate to offer an opinion." The DA's office said the same, while an email to Bill Gibbons, who is Tennessee's new public safety commissioner, was not returned.
And take a polygraph test on the air.
Peters says he plans to do plenty of talking.
Thank you, Jason, for coming out again.
Between now and his trial.
And that was Action News 5's Jason Miles reporting. Peters is scheduled to be back in court in late March. He was released on his own recognizance after a judge waived his $25,000 bond, although Peters still complained about only having a tank top and pajama bottoms.
2 years ago, his club was shut down. The DA called it a public nuisance, a place where folks did and sold drugs. But when it was time for the club owner to go to trial, most of the charges were dropped, except one, a misdemeanor marijuana charge. Not only has the misdemeanor pot case gone to a jury, Thorne Peters, who calls himself a kingpin, is representing himself in court. Our Tom Howell is live to tell us how Peters performed as his own lawyer. Tom?
Well, Richard, at times the judge and Peters went back and forth in frustration, but the self-described pot-smoking hedonist seemed to take his role as defense attorney seriously.
Just $1 million worth of cops and nothing to show for it.
Since 2009, when authorities shut down his club and arrested him on felony drug charges, Thorne Peters has spent 19 months behind bars.
On the day we were to go to trial, they dropped the case.
Meaning he's spent all that time in jail, and all that's left is the misdemeanor marijuana charge he's on trial for. Prosecutors laid out their case that Peters handed over a bag of pot to an undercover informant. Peters is representing himself, still in his jail clothes, even though he's no longer behind bars.
So why this attire?
I'm still a prisoner while this goes on, because my life is being held hostage.
Thorne Peters, wearing surgical scrubs and Mardi Gras beads, is representing himself in court.
Yeah, so just pick one. Are you corrupt or are you incompetent?
At times, the judge did seem frustrated.
You may represent yourself. You have a constitutional right to do so, but you have to conform yourself just like any attorney. Snapping back.
But Peters pressed on, trying to show a lack of evidence. No wires, no fingerprints, no video.
In the end, you only have Ms. Egan's word that a drug sale was made.
In court, he played to the camera. I had to ask him about that.
What, if anything, is this? I can't tell. See? And I'm not going to tell. We'll just never know for sure, will we?
You won't tell me what's in there?
No, are you kidding? I have to take it.
You investigated my club for 9 months to discover I smoked pot. You couldn't figure that out the first day you went to the club. We smoked pot in there every day. They didn't come and arrest me for smoking pot. They planted evidence, they falsified reports, they committed and suborned perjury to make it look like I was a drug dealer. And now their house of cards is folding on them.
As for him, this is what the case comes down to.
Who are you most outraged at? The pot-smoking hedonist who loves smoking pot with smoking hot women, or the state who has gone about spending an unbelievable amount of tax dollars?
I was incarcerated from July 2009 to February 2011.
Peters was in jail on pot charges for 572 days, costing taxpayers more than $53,000 before he finally went to trial, a charge that has a maximum sentence of just under a year.
So on 4/20/2011, a mere 69 days after I was released from 19 months of false imprisonment, it was off to the park to dig the vibe, kick it with friends indeed, and toke up before my date with destiny on the holy high day. So after we'd spent 45 minutes in the park, I'm standing there talking on the microphone, chiefing the whole time. Behind all those trees, there's these pigs, disguised as human beings, who make their move only after we leave. Look at this. Busting people in the park on 420 for toking pot. Now, they saw me smoking pot, but they didn't bother with it, because they wanted me to just go away.
So blunts, your doobies, your bongs, your pipes. Head to the nearest courthouse, the Capitol building, and smoke some pot.
On 4/20/2011, at 4:20, he returned to the courthouse, toking...
I dankened their doorstep to take my freedom bust and become still another cannabis casualty. Even then, they ignored me until I declared that I'd come back and chief up every day. Now, watch the cop in action to understand my point. He is coming upon me in the commission of a crime, yet doesn't feel the need to have his weapon drawn. So what's the other crime in progress that they respond to with their guns holstered? The only citizen in this shot who needs to be protected is me from them. So I'm not kidnapped, forced to strip, and sent to live with the scum of the earth in jail. But there is no one to protect me from this law. So it's down the drain I go again.
Yeah, I sure do. Can I go stand now? Okay, turn around? Yep. I gotta go to phone, get it behind your back. Oh, that's pretty good. There you go. Finally. All right, well, no deal, no bail, taking the trial. Let them spend another couple of $100,000 to go with the $1 million they've already spent on me in 2 other marijuana cases. And off to jail we go. Here we go, taxpayers, $45,000 a year. We're going to trial once again. You don't believe me? Go to thornpeters.com.
As he's taken away.
So after all that news and cops and a story that became a chapter in the book, it all ends because they send the indictment to the wrong address. Oh, they didn't come to the wrong address when it was time to pick me up. They found me no problem. Just a couple of weeks after I filed a $5 million lawsuit. That's right, it's time to pay for your crimes. A couple of weeks before that, I was hit by a car laying in the middle of the street, and the Memphis police had me right there in their clutches, knocked out.
Here with the mayor of Memphis, Leo, I'll go ahead and ask him why. He'll tell you. Oh, he's in the middle of hitting the apple. Friends is the leader of the 99%, and he is about to take a protest bus to put this law on trial in the name of people who suffer from mental disorders, which he does. He's a former junkie. He's trying to use marijuana to get off the drugs. It's marijuana to stay off drugs, and they give him drugs. We do. We're trying to fight for laws so you don't have to do this for a living. I know that you've joined up. I want you to know I'm not against you.
If anything, we'll take it.
But you're violating your rights every time you arrest somebody for marijuana. You're violating their rights.
This is business, and they don't want them on the property. You can just go sit somewhere else.
And smoke weed? Where can he smoke weed that's legal, sir? Where does he go to smoke weed where you're not going to violate his rights and arrest him? You can't even speak to this law. It's so unspeakable. You are serving the evil empire. Remember that. Go. Would you like to take this book?
How you doing?
Mark Luttrell. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. Back when you were at my club?
That's right.
This is a book all about you. You might want to read it. Yeah, it didn't come out very well in it.
I did.
Well, it comes all out of how you guys launched a 9-month-long sting operation in my club where we smoked pot every night and never caught anybody smoking pot.
Yeah.
5 different law enforcement agencies. 19 months of wrongful incarceration followed by a trial for possession of pot. Where the state said I wasn't in possession of pot. Wasn't exactly your finest hour. Malfeasance, all of that. But it's in there for you. Enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it while in jail.
I probably won't read it, so
I know.
I'll give it back to you.
I appreciate you for taking it. We'll see you on YouTube.
Take care.
I am at the Memphis Injustice Center, known by its address 201 Poplar. It's 4:20 at nearly 4:20 p.m. in the year of your Lord, 2014. And I am here to take a protest bust, yet again, to put the law on trial for violating my rights every time I took pot. Raise the bar. They don't want to bust me for misdemeanor pot anymore. They'll only bust me for a felony. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to return here on my birthday, August 21st, in the year of your Lord, 2014, and declare my birthday the first National Day of Consent. And I'm going to bring felony weight here. I'm going to bring their 14 grams, the equivalent of half a pack of cigarettes, and I'm going to go face them years in prison because it doesn't matter.
Whether it's a joint or a couple of bags or a field of pot, mens rea. You can't defeat me by law, so come on with it. It's my turn to set a devious little trap for you. But until then,
I'm puffing tough right up your skirt, close enough to smell your vinegar. You won't have to prosecute me for invisible weed again. Your pigs won't have to plant evidence anymore. I won't even make you get on your knees to scrape 0.0043 grams of pot out of an apple on this go-round. I'm dealing major felony weight daily. I'm involved with the interstate trafficking of cannabis, and I now have expanded my enterprise into the field of cultivation, outdoor and indoor. Ooh, I'm facing big-time Fed cases that I can't wait to try on behalf of Cannabis Universe. All you need to do is take the bait and bust me so I can hand you your plump rump on a platter. Mens rea, bitch.
there it is there. I challenge you to have more balls than your predecessor or your cohorts. You want me? Come after me. No more innocent bystanders. No more collateral damage. No more intimidating my associates with your omnipotence. You want me? Let's go do this dance right now. One way or the other, we're going to get it on. Your place or mine. So to honor the one pothead busted every 22 seconds, every year by the enemies of freedom throughout Cannabis Universe, I will take a fat sack to the head.
That's Thorne Peters taking what he calls the Can-A-Bag Challenge, a play on the famous ASL Ice Bucket Challenge. The video, one of many he's made on YouTube promoting marijuana.
Now, as a tribute to the dealers on the front lines who risk their lives and their freedom so we can smoke weed every day, I will take another head change. Oh, yeah. Hey, this one's a little over. Okay, I am not moving, but everybody else, it's pickup time. Now let us pay our respects to the cultivators who face baby-raping murderer time for every plant that they grow so that we can enjoy the pleasure of pot.
A close-up look at a man known for his colorful and outspoken behavior when it comes to marijuana use. Thorne Peters was arrested this week on drug charges.
According to police, officers cut a lock on a gate around the house. Inside were 2 pit bulls. This one, Muggles, was hit with a shotgun blast. Peters has made a splash across our air before, representing himself in court cases involving pot.
He would rather die standing free than living on his knees begging.
So after I spent 11 months posting episodes of me smoking pot, dealing pot, and growing pot across the Facebook walls of the mayor, the district attorney, the sheriff, and the commissioner of Homeland Security for Tennessee, right here from my parlor in the hood of Memphis, home of America's dumbest police force, in the violent crime capital, I was finally arrested. Here I am, I'm in my 201 Poplar shirt, so this is the day I got out of jail after the raid by the organized coward unit here in Memphis. The police came and got me, and I want it on the record, here I am, I'm dealing weed now. Here it is that very night, and I'm dealing weed.
Maybe Memphis's most outspoken pot activist.
It's madness. And they're spending a fortune on this insanity to say, hey, look, we're out there fighting crime.
Peters is here, waiting to go before a judge on a possession charge.
So that she can say, well, it's not because I'm being forced down, it's because I had other things to do than be in court today. So this is a political move.
Continuing coverage tonight, another member of local law enforcement is in hot water over social media postings.
Now, this time, a Shelby County Sheriff's Office detective is suspended with pay while the department investigates whether he violated its social media policy.
Now, reps with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office confirmed the detective is Gary Beans. Local 24's Austin Lewis joins us now live in the newsroom.
Now, Austin, you spoke with a man who claims he posed as a woman on Facebook and exchanged sexually explicit messages with Detective Beans.
That's right, Rudy. Thorne Peters, who asked that we call him Kingpin Thorne Peters, a self-styled prophet crusading to legalize cannabis, says he sent the post to Detective Beans out of revenge. He says he wanted to get the detective in trouble because he says Beans campaigned to close down his Millington area club 7 years ago. In 2009, Shelby County Sheriff's deputies raided and shut down Peters' Millington area club. They said he was selling pot out of the club. 7 years later, Kingpin Thorne Peters, a self-styled prophet crusading to legalize cannabis, blames Detective Beans for taking more than just his business.
I lost everything, not just my club, but intellectual property for a lifetime, poetry and music that I've been writing since childhood, my grandfather's Navy chevrons, an Elvis scarf. I mean, all of this was taken from me, and I was given 19 months in jail.
Peters wanted revenge, so he set up a Facebook profile of a woman and says he messaged Detective Beans. Peters says over the course of 3 days, they exchanged more than 1,800 messages via Facebook Messenger. He says many were sexually explicit. According to Shelby County Sheriff's Office policies, deputies are prohibited from using sexually explicit language on social media. It also prohibits the display of Shelby County Sheriff's logos. According to video captured by Peters, it appears Detective Beans' profile picture during their exchanges was a Sheriff's Office badge. Peters says the two arranged to rendezvous at Applebee's and that the detective thought he was meeting a woman named McCartney Stella. Instead, it was Peters who confronted Beans and recorded it all.
Here on company time.
I merely presented the facts. This is what this man was doing on company time. This man was doing this with your taxpayer resources. From his company Facebook page, driving around his company car, but more importantly, this is how he was representing your community.
Now, Rudy, Kelly, we did try to speak with Detective Beans, and to be clear, the detective is suspended with pay while the Shelby County Sheriff's Office determines whether he violated its social media policy. He is not accused of a crime. Meanwhile, the Sheriff's Office is still investigating a deputy for comments he made on social media concerning the recent Black Lives Matter bridge protests. Live in the newsroom, Austin Lewis, Local 24 News.
The Shelby County Sheriff's detective has been suspended with pay after a controversial social media post. WMC Action News 5's Ian Silver has details on what this post was about and why it could be violating the department's policy.
It involves social media, yeah, and right now they're trying to determine whether or not the comments he made were while on duty or not, and whether it violated any policies with the Sheriff's Office.
We're told Shelby County Sheriff's Detective Gary Bean's suspension with pay could have something to do with this video.
As I live and breathe, it's Detective Gary Beans on company time here to meet some troll female he thinks he's going to cheat on his wife with.
An elaborate video released by a guy who says he has an axe to grind with Beans for getting his club shut down 8 years ago. According to the video, the guy posed as a woman on Facebook and was messaging Beans. The conversation turned very sexual. Apparently more than 1,800 messages in 5 days were exchanged, allegedly while Beans was on the clock. The guy posing as a woman set up a meeting with Beans, implying it would lead to sex, then ambushed him inside a restaurant.
As part of the investigation, I just can't comment on it.
Shelby County Sheriff's Office spokesman Earl Farrell gave us this copy of the department's social media policies. They were developed in 2010. Now, the parts that are most interesting to us in relation to this video are even though Beans appeared to be messaging from his own personal account, it also appeared that he had a Shelby County Sheriff's Office shield as his profile picture, something that is strictly prohibited as part of the policy. Plus, when he communicated is key.
Well, they're not allowed to post on their own personal social media on duty.
After a string of other deputies and MPD officers being suspended because of social media posts, Farrell says he hopes everyone who works in the Sheriff's Office is taking these policies as seriously as the sheriff does.
Whether it's on social media or not, I mean, the way you conduct yourself in public, you're representing the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, and everyone's held to a higher accountability than most civilians.
Reporting in Memphis, Ian Silver, WMC Action News 5.